Hello, and welcome to part 10 of Povop City. Now today we do have a couple of problems, the main one being that our landfill is almost full, and I believe our cemetery is also almost full, which means we do have to come up with solutions for both of these. And I think the easiest one to do would be the cemetery. Now, I have talked about this before, where I like to later game just use crematoriums. So I'm going to unlock that, and I'm going to look for a place to build one. But before that, I actually have to mention that we do have quite a few options, as the mods have given us a couple additional ones, including the French crematorium, which is a much smaller crematorium, and the Netherlands crematorium, which is a much larger, high-capacity crematorium that is still in a modest footprint. I think a space like here would be the best spot, as it is relatively flat, and it is on a more main road that has access to other areas also. Now, just because it is a crematorium, I do want to make it look a little better. And there we go. Now, I do like how there are a couple of trees around it too, so I am going to keep them there. I do want to check on the stats of it, and it seems like it can do a lot more than a regular crematorium, as it can process at double the speed. Additionally, if we ever need to, we can add pretty much unlimited car parks, as long as there is space in the area. Moving back to one of our other big issues, not only is the landfill full, it's also causing problems over here with air pollution. And really, even though only these people are complaining about it, it's affecting everyone in this whole area. So we need to find a new place to put it that won't affect people, which pretty much knocks out all of this area because all of this area is going to become highly developed. Now, an area that I feel would make sense is somewhere over here or over here. Personally, I like over here because it is relatively flat in certain spots. But before I risk taking out more loans to buy land tiles and build the actual facility, I do want to solve another problem with it, and that would be our power problem. Right now we import electric, and we're importing not even 30 megawatts. And even though we have a few of our own windmills, we're still paying $260,000 per month. That's a lot, when we can knock out most of that demand with this 20 megawatt coal power plant that only will cost us $12,500 per month. So what I'll do is take out the loan, make sure we're still in the positive, buy the land tiles we need for now, and pay back most of the rest. And now what I'm going to do is make an exit off of this highway, as it will provide a lot of connectivity. And now, so we can plan where it goes, we are finally going to unlock the incineration plant. And now that we've hooked our power plant and incineration plant up to power and water, we are having a problem. We are having an overload over here, which isn't too big of a deal, as we can simply just increase the budget. And now that we have this in place, we are going to turn it on, and we are finally going to get rid of our landfill. Additionally, we can get rid of these excess roads and change this to be bus only. And now what we'll do is increase the service budget for electric and watch our import go away. And there we go. While our import hasn't completely disappeared, we have lowered it by a significant amount. Now, for some reason, we are now in debt, which partially makes sense because we do have quite a bit of a loan. Now, I think the easiest way to stop this would be to lower the budget for our incineration plant. And that has fixed our budget problem, and we should be fine still as far as processing capacity. And after a while, these people should stop experiencing air pollution problems. And now that we've improved 3 services, our electric infrastructure, our garbage infrastructure, and our death care, it's now time to grow the city further. Now we are getting closer and closer to level 10, which will mean we'll be able to build high density offices. So I'm going to hold off on building over here still. What I will do though is build over here, and over here too. And right here I think it's super easy to say we could put some high-density businesses, as there are quite a few people in the area. Additionally, there's plenty of space here too, so I think some homes could go here. Now, while upgrading this path, I did accidentally destroy a building, so we are going to get rid of its zoning so it doesn't zone in something awkward. And unfortunately, this was a very large building, so this will displace quite a few people and probably add quite a few homeless people to our park. And as we can see, the people over here are no longer dealing with air pollution. Now there is a change I would like to make, and it's because I made a mistake when building this bus lane. I noticed it because there were a large amount of people walking on the side of it. Instead of making it a highway, I accidentally made it just a regular road, which is going to slow the buses down. So instead I am going to convert it and also fix this little hump over here. And there we go. Now while it did cause quite a few problems, especially over here, and this cliff over here too, it is probably for the better, but we are going to have to get rid of all of this now. And just to clear the area up and make it look a little nicer for now, I will put this little overpass, which will allow us to develop over here in the future. So to grow our city, there are a couple of options, but the one I've been thinking about is while we're waiting to get our high density offices over here to create tons of jobs, I think what would make sense is to build some sort of another area. Something I've not talked about in a while is the demand for low density homes. Now this has been pretty much unwavering, and people do want larger housing. So what I think we might do is buy a couple of tiles off of here, take a road off of this highway, which will also give us XP and lead us closer to that high density office goal, and build the suburbs over here. And as a benefit, there are plenty of trees over here which will probably need to be cleared, so plenty of jobs will be made. And just so that we can buy a couple of tiles over here, we'll take out a small loan. And now we can get to work on a simple intersection. And here we go. A simple intersection, but one that should work for the time being, and for the capacity that we'll see in the future. So before we run out of money, I do want to quickly build up the infrastructure for roads. And there we go, we have laid out the first roads for the area. In the meantime though, there are tons of trees, so we are going to set up a temporary forestry industry. But we now have another problem, which can be pretty easily solved. Though to do it, we will need to take out a little more money. The problem of electricity can be solved with a transformer station, the freshwater problem with a groundwater pumping station, and the sewage problem with a sewage outlet over here. And now it's time to start building our houses. And that is our low density gone. But what we can still do is add a little bit of commercial over here. And with the first few houses appearing, and the area looking much nicer with trees, completed with the first businesses building in, I think this is gonna grow up to be a pretty nice area. Now, is it the best area as far as having density and amenities, like over here? Certainly not. But this is definitely how some people would like to live. Right now though, we are at an extreme loss of money, so we'll continue zoning in more homes and see if that fixes our problem. And with all of the lots sold to developing houses, we need to expand the grid. And it looks like we are having our first problem. This house is set on fire, and the firehouse is pretty far away. Hopefully though, this doesn't create too many problems, and it will be put out soon. And the fire engine is still dealing with city traffic, trying to get over to the main road and rush over here. But I do think it is going to be a little too late. And it seems like the neighboring house is caught on fire too, and this fire engine is still lagging behind. So once we get more money, we are definitely going to have to give this area some amenities of its own. And with the fire engine finally on the highway, the first house has already burned down. And now just as the fire engine is arriving, a third house has gone up in flames, and the second house has collapsed. And a fourth house has set on fire. Now I really do want to see about when we'll be able to build another fire station, but it doesn't seem like we'll be able to do that for quite some time. And by the time the fire engine was able to put out the fires, 2 houses collapsed. Nonetheless, it is time to get back to zoning. And demand for low density really just is not stopping. So we will have to continue expanding in other areas too. So we are going to have to go across over here. And now we have filled up all of the plots on this side too. So really, we might have to pause on the suburbs over here for now. Moving back to the main part of the city, we do see we have office demand, but I really don't want to build any low density offices, so I do think we will just wait for the high density. Now what I'd like to do is revisit this area. I'm really not sure how I feel about it because I feel like if we're building high density over here, which is what we wanted to do, it is on quite a bit of a slope and it isn't really a grid like I would like. So we might have to change this area to instead be row housing and then high density over here. So I'm going to make a simple change for that. And that should be a little better for high density buildings so that we can fit more of them. And there we go, we've gotten a lot of row housing down and also a large high density building. Something else I would like to do, just because there's already pollution over here, is add a couple of factories. And now just to make sure these factories actually become occupied and we can eventually build more in the future, I am going to lower the taxes for factories. And I'll do it slowly so that we don't suddenly run out of money and run ourselves into the negatives. And what I'd like to do now is start developing over here, seeing as we've given ourselves a head start. And I am really not sure what's happened over here, why this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Why there is a 10 car pile up, but that's pretty crazy. And here we go. Now we have the basis of a couple of roads, which we can start zoning on when we are ready. But for now, I do think I want to continue expanding the actual road infrastructure so we can get more experience, which will lead us closer towards high density offices. Now, while I was continuing to grow our area over here, I did see this bus and decided to click on it, and I am seeing that all of these buses are full, and we can add more vehicles, so that's exactly what I'll do. And on the topic of buses, over here there is something I would like to do. But first we must move the bounds of the forestry area, and what I'd like to do is put a small bus station over here, and go ahead and add a route from over here to the downtown. Of course, we'll make the tickets free and lower the amount of vehicles. Also, I'd like to change the color. But we have another problem. There's not enough vehicles. So we'll need to build a bus depot that we can't quite afford. So we will have to take out a loan. And I'd like to build it somewhere over here, just so it creates a few jobs over here, and we're not using the more valuable land over here to build such a large building. And I know I just built these businesses here, but I feel like this is just too good of a spot to pass up. And there we go. Now we aren't going to upgrade it with anything yet, but I do think this is a pretty good spot for it. Checking back over here, I would like to zone in a couple more industrial buildings. And the final thing I would like to do today is look at our raw material production. As we can see, we've got plenty of wood production, plenty of grain production, but no livestock production. Fish, just because fish is such a minuscule industry, I'm not worried about it. Vegetables, we're pretty out of balance. Crude oil is a little bit of an issue, along with metal ore, coal, and stone. But we've got nowhere that we own that we can build any vegetable farming, which leads us to only being able to build grain farming, stone mining, coal and ore mining, but no oil drilling. Additionally, just because we own the land over here, I think I'll set up a forestry area here. And there we go, we can finally start capitalizing on this area too. And now all we have to do for livestock farming is find an empty and relatively flat area. And I think over here would work perfect. And with these two farms set up, I do want to fix them up a little bit. And truly, this building over here has thrown a wrench in my plan. I mean, seriously, what is even going on over here? And that's pretty much the best we'll be able to make it. And looking over here, there is a bit of an issue I do want to solve next time. As of now, there are only exits and entrances for over here, none for over here, and it is going to be a pretty complicated issue to fix. Because I can't just take an off-ramp here because the slope is a little steep, and I can't put an on-ramp going this way for a couple of reasons. It would cross this road, and again, the slope is pretty steep. And maybe this bus line was a waste, because really only a handful of people are actually utilizing it. And the last thing I would like to do is fix this slope. Anyways, that's the end of this video. I really appreciate you watching, and if you have any questions or suggestions, please let me know in the comments. In the meantime, have yourself a great day.